Welcome back to Morning Drive as we continue our series on race and sports in America and how we can move the game of golf forward. We're pleased to be joined now by a three-time PGA Tour winner and eight-time PGA Tour Champions winner, Kirk Triplett. Good morning, Kirk. You know, back in August, in the middle of our country's reckoning on race, you placed the words Black Lives Matter on your golf bag at the Bridgestone Senior Players Championship. You and your wife, Kathy, are parents of four, and your youngest adopted son, Kobe, is African American. What was the meaning behind the message on your bag?
Well, I think the meaning is, I saw the stuff that was going on this summer in a sort of a new way, or it affected me in a new way, and I just felt like it was time to do something, time to act. I didn't feel like there was a lot of different things that I could do, but I did feel like this was one thing I could do to tell people that, look, I'm hearing what's going on and I'm starting to understand it, and let's get together and make some progress.
Those words, Black Lives Matter, Kirk, are all over the NBA and many other sports. We don't see them very much in professional golf. Why do you think that is?
Well, obviously, it's got to be the demographic of the players, right? The message in those other sports is it's not beginning at the ownership level or at the game level. It's beginning with the players. So I think that's the fundamental difference between our game and the other sports is the demographic. Even though sometimes I think we feel unaffected or that those are just news stories. I know for me, having an African American son, it really started to hit home a couple years ago when he got his driver's license, and we would start talking about, okay, if you get stopped by the police, how are you going to react? What are you going to do? The same message we had with the other kids about respect and compliance and doing what the officer asks you. But there are times where, we were trying to give that message more in earnest, and that you have a real concern that even that might not be enough. And I think that's the first time I maybe experienced just a tiny, tiny bit of what the African American community experiences, not just when they're stopped by the police, but sometimes anytime they deal with the system as a whole.
Kirk, what has been the reaction of your peers on the PGA Tour Champions to your gesture?
Well, I think, for the most part, I've gotten a lot of support. There have been a few, a friend of mine sort of put it best. He called it the whatabouts, right? Well, what about this? Or what about that? Or what about the other thing, right? And that's sort of given me an opportunity to share kind of how I got to this point of, hey, disregard all the noise. Listen to the message. Listen to the people that are, experiencing the social injustice, the racial injustice here. And let's help them. Let's partner with them. Let's at least tell them that we're listening and we hear it and we understand it. So I'm sure, golf, like any other walk of life, you got people that are, one, they maybe just want you to shut up and putt, right? There's certainly that attitude about athletes and what they say. And then there are probably others that maybe lean a little farther to the right than that. And, to their credit, it's, they pretty much ignored me, but, I'm just kind of an annoyance, but I'm used to being an annoyance out there. I sometimes feel it's my job to poke people a little bit and get them to think a little bit different way. So just ask my kids.
Well, you've talked about people listening. What are some things you'd like to see from golf in this moment, whether from an individual or organizational standpoint?
Golf's got a great demographic, right? It's got a lot of smart people that play it. It's, if you like golf, you have a certain respect for the structure and the rules of the game and the people that play it. And it feels like to me for, a couple of decades, we've been trying to tap into that and find a way to use an expression, to make our tent bigger and bring more people to the game. But, the game's got some pretty serious obstacles, whether they be economic or traditions or whatever. But to me, the organizations are great and they're trying new things, and I applaud them for it. The PGA of America, USGA, PGA Tour. But it really comes down more to that saying of, think globally and act locally, right? As an individual, the organizations can put in all these programs that they want to, but ultimately it's going to be up to the individuals to reach out into their communities, and whether it's bring people to the game or just people that are already in the game, maybe they're sharing the game or not sharing the game, right? How can we create some opportunities for, the African American culture and the white culture to play golf together and share their experiences? Um, you know, we got to find some vehicles in this country to bring these cultures together, where we kind of share an interest about one thing, but we learn about our differences as well, and we can celebrate those instead of argue about them.
It's interesting, Kirk. You speak of growing the tent. You're growing the tent in your own home. You're raising a multi-ethnic family, includes white and Latino children as well. How has raising Kobe been different in terms of things you've seen or things he's faced? And I know you mentioned talking about police.
Well, for us, first of all, we didn't set out to like change the world or build a multi-ethnic family or, be a showpiece or talk to everybody about this, that, and the other. We had two kids and we wanted to have more, and we weren't able to. We looked into adoption. We saw a need. We saw that we had resources. We had the drive and the want to give these kids homes, and we were way less concerned about what they look like than about what we could provide for them. So for us, it was just about wanting to have more kids. As far as everybody talks about the bubble now, right, with the pandemic. Yeah, PGA Tour's been a bubble forever, right? So these kids have grown up in a bubble, a cultural bubble, I guess, more than anything. So they've been pretty insulated from racism, and my wife Kathy and we're no exception to that. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Washington, had very few experiences with minorities of any kind. So this has been a real learning, parenting minority children has been a real learning process for me, and a chance at growth, because like everybody else in America, I've had plenty of missteps or misunderstandings of the issues involving race. And I only feel like now I'm starting to get a better handle on it. And, I sort of appreciate that opportunity. But, for Kobe as an individual, I mean, it's just been like schoolyard racism kind of stuff, right? That at least from what he's told us, and we haven't really experienced too much of it. Like the picture you just showed of our family, it's pretty obvious what we're doing right from the get-go. So, if people respect, they, give you the thumbs up, and if not, they sort of, ignore them and go on your way. So, but yeah, this whole issue really stems from those conversations with Kobe about his driver's license, and it went 15 years without really thinking too much about it, and now I think about it a lot.
Well, it's not easy being a teenager, no matter the day or the issue. What's Kobe's reaction been, kind of to your notoriety since you put the sticker on the bag?
Well, Kobe, I mean, he couldn't be a more typical teenager, right? He wants to do as little as possible, get by under the radar, not be seen, not be heard, and just kind of do his own thing. So this is certainly not something that, when we have these discussions with him, the eye roll starts, right? You can just see him rolling back like, oh, here we go again, mom and dad. Someday I know he'll look back and go, yeah, I appreciate what mom and dad were talking about there. But, for him, it's not, it's his cause, but he's more, geared to other things at the moment.
Well, Kirk, this country obviously is still grappling with these issues. What is your level of optimism that things are getting better?
Well, I guess it depends uh, what lens you're viewing it through, right? You yourself, right? You can probably answer that question significantly better than I can. I mean, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, would you have been sitting at the anchor desk on a, predominantly white sport? So yeah, there's some progress, right? But then you watch what happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and you're like, well, that's not progress. So there's still a long ways to go. It's going to be a very interesting couple of months in this country. Um, you hear things like this is the most important election of all time. I mean, but you hear that before every election. So I think when I see it becoming more and more mainstream, a few years ago, Colin Kaepernick's the only guy kneeling during the national anthem. Now entire sports leagues are doing it, right? So there are a lot of people in this country that get what equality means and what racial justice is. And I think now we just need everybody to speak out about it a little bit more.
It's a lot to unpack for sure, Kirk. Thanks so much for spending time with us and sharing about you and your family. We really appreciate it.
Well, it wasn't just a wake up one night and throw the sticker on the bag. There was a lot of considerations. There's like you said, I mean, a lot to unpack. Doesn't do it justice what's really involved here. But people have to be willing to, listen and to talk, and we got to start somewhere.
Hopefully the conversation will continue, Kirk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.